Welcome, seekers of the unfiltered and the unseen, to a new chapter from Secrets Behind the Stars. Lately, the glitter around Turkish show business hasn't twinkled for red carpets and awards, but for a hush that crawled across timelines and comment sections, multiplying with every share. At the heart of that murmur stands Mahassine Merabet, a woman celebrated for grace on and off the set, suddenly smudged by shadows that were never hers. Tonight, we aren't amplifying rumor. We are tracing how a steadfast voice, Jenk Torin, stepped forward when the crowd demanded a spectacle and chose integrity instead. Before we plunge into the heart of this tempest, if you believe that truth deserves a louder microphone than gossip, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and tap like. And if you want to keep this community bold and independent, the join button is right there waiting to welcome you. Social media can be a court without walls, and far too often, without mercy. A few clipped audios, a misunderstood glance, a leaked schedule email sent at the wrong hour. Suddenly a set becomes a battlefield in the imaginations of strangers. Talk of on-set frictions and simmering tensions ballooned out of proportion, inflated by those who feed on the adrenaline of scandal. In the noise, Mahasine made a choice that few make when the mob starts counting clicks. She stayed quiet. Not defeated. Not absent. Calculated, measured, and calm. Her pause wasn't empty. It was a deliberate breath in a room desperate to force her into a shout. Yet, as the silence stretched, some called it guilt. Others called it complicity. Headlines read the hush as a confession that was never spoken. But the stage was already set for another entrance. When he finally took that step, the temperature shifted. Jenk Torin, steady gaze, easy poise, did not arrive carrying buzzwords or rehearsed lines designed to trend for 5 minutes and vanish by morning. He arrived with a center of gravity. Cameras lunged, microphones crowded, and you could feel the thirst for a trigger phrase. Cenk didn't drink from that well. He spoke plainly, with the warmth of someone who knows exactly who he is defending and why. He didn't dodge, nor did he pretend that years of partnership could be reduced to a shrug. He looked into the lens that had already decided its angle and, with a tone that cut through the static, said what needed to be said. The story being spun about Mahasine was not his reality. He talked about shared call times before sunrise, about laughter that loosens the tightest shoot days, about the kind of discipline that doesn't make PR lists but makes great work possible. He painted her not as a headline, not as a brand, but as an artist whose precision is a craft, not a costume. And while he didn't recite receipts or start a feud, he made it impossible to mistake where he stood. He pointed to the obvious truth that so many forget when the internet accelerates: success cuts both ways. Wear it long enough and even a yawn gets treated like a tantrum. In that wind tunnel, a calendar shift becomes a rebellion, and a thoughtful no gets twisted into arrogance. Cenk reminded us that people aren't tags, that reputation isn't a plaything, and that dignity is not a bargain chip to be tossed into the pot for more views. It wasn't grandstanding. It was a reminder that humanity doesn't vanish just because a camera is on. Here at Secrets Behind the Stars, we take a moment to applaud the courage it takes to stand in front of a tidal wave and choose measured words over a viral meltdown. In an industry where so many decide survival means staying silent, Cenk chose to speak, not with rage, but with resolve. Do you think more celebrities should take the risk of publicly defending those they care about? Or is it wiser to stay clear and let the storm exhaust itself? Tell us where you stand in the comments. If this kind of careful, heart-forward storytelling matters to you, consider leaving a super thanks. It keeps the lights on and the truth bright. The resonance of his words was immediate. Because they didn't sound like a press release shaped by a committee, because they weren't polished to a blinding shine, they hit with the weight that only sincerity carries. Within hours, the tone of the conversation shifted a degree, then another, and then a full turn. Viewers who were teetering between curiosity and blame found footing in the voice of someone who actually shows up for her in real life. We heard from people close to the couple that an audible exhale passed through their circle the moment Cenk made his stance public. Not every conflict ends with shouting. Some are unknotted with patience and presence. But don't mistake this moment of clarity for an ending. Whispers suggest that this first shield will not be the last. Mahassine, meticulous about the path she is building, is preparing a response of her own, one she intends to craft carefully, not as a clapback but as a record. Insiders say she's consulting with her legal team and PR advisors, mapping the full picture with context, dates, and a calm you can't fake. She understands that the minute she speaks, the words will travel farther than any rumor that came before. She isn't rushing to meet the news cycle. She's choosing her moment the way an artist chooses a final stroke that changes the painting from good to unforgettable. And as all this unfolds, something intimate has slipped into the spotlight. Fans have followed Cenk and Mahassine with that soft focus reserved for a pair whose bond seems to glow even under fluorescent studio lights. Away from premieres and backstage snapshots, those who know them describe a partnership that prefers kindness over competition and honesty over dramatics. Ambition doesn't crowd out affection. Jealousy doesn't get a seat at their table. In a business where alliances can shatter under the weight of the next big thing, their unwavering teamwork has become a masterclass in loving while the world watches. If the rumor mill spun so fast, perhaps it's because their ascent has been swift and bright. New projects, expanding audiences, a spotlight that found them and decided to stay, these are the currencies of success, but they also attract those who wait for any slip to call it a fall. Cenk didn't blink. You could see the certainty in the way he answered, the slight tilt of his shoulders that said, "This is someone I will not leave to the wolves of speculation." He described Mahassine not as an idea other people own, but as a woman whose commitment threads through every scene the public cheers for. Now, attention gathers like storm clouds over the message still to come. Will Mahassine dismantle every rumor, point by point, with timestamps and receipts? Or will she offer a frame that holds facts and feeling together so the whole picture is finally visible? The tension hums. Not the screech of chaos, but the tuned string of a violin in a quiet hall, right before the bow meets it. Whatever form it takes, it will matter, not just to headlines, but to all the people who take cues from how their icons navigate pressure. But this moment is larger than crisis and reply. It's about how to build a life in tandem when the audience never goes home. The lesson isn't complicated. Behind a name that lights up a marquee is a person who wakes up with a knot in their throat on hard mornings. Behind the flawless photo is a heartbeat, private and steady. Behind applause is a pair of hands that shake sometimes. Forget that, and we begin to treat our stories like disposable packaging. Remember it, and the story deepens. There's also a craft note tucked in this saga. People forget that the final polish on screen comes from unglamorous choices. Learning pages in silence, showing up on time when no one's watching, accepting direction with curiosity, and advocating for yourself without scorching the room. Those who have observed Mahassine at work say her focus is unshakable, her discipline precise. Cenk's defense wasn't a leap of faith, it was a report from proximity, the kind only a partner through long hours can give. He reminded everyone that a narrative built from fragments, half-quotes, cropped clips, and assumptions can never equal the truth carried by someone who's actually there. Of course, there will be voices that argue silence was the wrong move, that any delay is a confession in disguise. But strategy is not surrender. Silence can be a shield while you gather your facts, your calm, and your wording. In a world that rewards instant reactions, choosing to breathe is a rebellion of its own. And when you're preparing to speak in a way that will live longer than the trend, timing is part of the message. We should also acknowledge the cost of standing up like Cenk did. When you put your name on a defense, you volunteer yourself as a target for the next wave. He did it anyway. That choice says more about what this partnership is built on than any relationship post ever could. It tells you about loyalty. It tells you about trust. It tells you that love, when it's real, doesn't just look good on a red carpet, it holds its ground in the mud. So where does this leave the rest of us? Fans, followers, and casual onlookers who clicked into a snippet and found ourselves deep in a story about character? Maybe it leaves us with a challenge to pause before we share, to ask whether the sharpest version of a claim is the truest one. Maybe it invites us to remember that, yes, celebrities live extraordinary lives, but the pain of being misread is ordinary and familiar. And maybe, if we're honest, we like the drama until we remember there are real hearts inside it. Secrets Behind the Stars family, thank you for staying with us through this testimony of dignity. The next chapter belongs to Mahassine, and when she decides that the moment is right, we will be right here, ready to bring you her words in full and in context. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our community so you're at the front row when it happens. If this perspective helped you see through the fog, a super thanks is a powerful way to help us keep telling stories with care. Until then, let this be a reminder that fame is a job, not a shield. That popularity is a number, not a compass. That what lasts isn't the screenshot but the character that stands behind it. Cenk has shown his. Mahasine is crafting hers. And together, they are teaching a masterclass in moving with purpose through a storm that wanted spectacle and met instead with grace. We will be here for the next note, the next page, the next steady breath in a room that sometimes forgets how to breathe. Until next time, and Secrets Behind the Stars.